What's up, Taiwan? Good evening. I'm Leslie Liao with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. People in Taiwan will still need to wear face masks in public at least to the end of July. That's the latest from Health Minister Chen Shizong. He says the government is also looking to reduce the quarantine for business travelers entering the country. Taiwan recorded just over 83,000 COVID cases on Tuesday. Of concern, the first reported case of MISC, a serious condition affecting children with COVID. John Van Trieste reports.
Doctors are warning parents to be on the lookout for 6 weeks after their children recover from COVID. That's after a child who'd recovered from a mild case of COVID in late April took a sudden turn for the worse last week. He had a high fever, diarrhea, swollen lymph nodes, and unstable blood pressure, all signs of a condition called MISC, or multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children. It's rare, but it can cause severe inflammation of organs and tissue in children who've had COVID. Doctors identified the syndrome in 2020. Until now, Taiwan had had no cases. It took 4 days of intensive care before the child's condition improved. Doctors say other signs to watch for are rashes and swelling of the hands or feet. They are still unsure what causes MISC. But they do know that vaccination can prevent the syndrome.
最好预防 MIS-C 的方法就是接种疫苗，下降97%。
A growing number of people who have had COVID are getting it a second time. Taiwan's Central Epidemic Command Center has recorded over 1,200 cases of reinfection dating back to 2020.
目前2次感染比较常见的症状是发烧。好，那第一次感染最常见的症状是咳嗽。
Though experts predict this current COVID wave will soon be on its way out, with MISC and reinfection, the danger isn't over, even for those who've recovered. Rick Yi and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen met visiting lawmakers from Slovakia. The two countries are looking to strengthen cooperation in trade and technology. The Deputy Speaker of Slovakia's Parliament, Milan Larenčík, is leading the delegation. It's the second visit by Slovakian lawmakers in 6 months. It comes at a time when several EU countries are deepening their ties with Taiwan. We spoke to Marcin Jezewski from the European Value Center for Security Policy, a Czech think tank, to find out what's behind the warming ties.
Slovakia experienced a significant change in its political scene when the new center and center-right coalition government was formed after a legislative election a few years ago, and that put an end to a 15-year domination of the Slovak political scene by the Social Democrats. And this new coalition government, which ideologically is more liberally oriented, brings a new momentum to ties between Taiwan and Slovakia. The economic dimension of this relationship cannot be understated. Already now, Slovakia is the second largest recipient of Taiwanese investment in the European Union, and the total volume of Taiwanese investments in Slovakia exceeds Chinese investments almost fourfold. So there is a strong foundation for both countries to deepen their ties.
A Taiwanese F-16 fighter jet has crash-landed at an airport in Hawaii. No one was injured in the incident and no major damage was reported. The jet came to a rest on its nose at Honolulu International Airport. Hawaii's Department of Transportation says there was a problem with the plane's front landing gear. The jet had just finished a training mission at Luke Air Base in the U.S. state of Arizona and was heading to Taiwan for an upgrade. These missions have been held regularly since the 1990s when Taiwan bought its first F-16s from the U.S. The crash landing in Hawaii comes 1 week after a fatal crash involving another Taiwan Air Force jet. A funeral was held on Tuesday for the 23-year-old pilot killed in last week's accident. Second Lieutenant Xu Dajun's AT-3 airplane crashed shortly after takeoff on May 31st. The military says that aging equipment, weather conditions, and pilot inexperience may have played a role in the accident. The AT-3s have been in service for decades. President Tsai Ing-wen offered her condolences to Xu's family in the southern city of Kaohsiung. Taiwan has recorded its biggest jump in inflation numbers in nearly a decade. That's the latest from the government's statistics office. The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, went up 3.39% in May. It's the third consecutive month of increases of over 3%. Taiwan's central bank is set to meet this month to decide whether to adjust the country's interest rates. The high CPI numbers could play a role in their decision. Rising food prices are hitting every part of the globe, including Taiwan. To discuss the situation here, our reporter Yin Kavat spoke with Emily Chang from Taiwan's top research institute, Academia Sinica.
Some low-income families are suffering from the pandemic already, and the soaring price make them suffer even more. As for the food prices, the price of flour and bread has grown over 7%. Price of pork increased by 8%. The price of egg rose sharply by 24%. So the consumers are indeed overwhelmed by the daily food price increase.
And what are the reasons for these huge price rises?
Oh, there are several major reasons. The first is the climate events. In the global food system, the extreme climate has bring a very heavy rainfall and the droughts in high frequency around the world. And the water shortage and the high temperature, like in the Western US and India, has worsened. So it affects the growth of corn and wheat. The second reason is the supply chain disruption due to the pandemic. In the past couple of years, the pandemic has tested that the resilience of our food system. And the third reason is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This region is responsible for roughly 30% of our global export of wheat and 65% of the sunflower oil. So this has they have also imposed export restriction on energy, grain, and fertilizer. And this also triggered some other countries responded to the COVID pandemic and the war by introducing restriction on the food and agriculture export.
I'm thinking in places such as Malaysia with the chicken export ban. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the WTO have also raised the concern and call for on countries to refrain from banning or restricting export of food staples because of the impact of these measures can have on the livelihood in the importing countries and also farmers.
Heavy rain warnings are in effect for most of Taiwan, particularly along the west coast. Showers on Monday have already flooded some areas. The Central Weather Bureau expects sporadic downpours for the next few days. A lingering weather front is set to bring more rain through Saturday. Taiwan's rainy season, known as the plum rains, lasts through mid-June. The coral reefs around Taiwan's Liao Island are dying out. That's according to a new report released ahead of World Oceans Day on Wednesday. The Taiwan Environmental Information Association says the coral near Liao is in worse condition than anywhere else in the country, and the damage is so bad the reefs are unlikely to recover by themselves. Only 10 to 20% of the coral reefs around the island are still alive. Other hard-hit areas are along the north and east coasts of Taiwan. The only region with healthy corals is around Orchid Island in the southeast. As for what's killing Taiwan's coral reefs, the report blames human activity. Scholars are calling on the government to do more to protect the marine environment. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of a legendary rock band, the Rolling Stones, on their European tour. You can see them here performing in Munich with original band members Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Ronnie Wood. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.